Open BraveWords Radio.
Welcome back to BraveWords Radio. Brought to you by Vox Protocol, the global leader in voice app entertainment. BraveWords Radio is an awesome musical extension of BraveWords.com, where we have been waving the flag of hard rock and heavy metal around the world for over 30 years. Since you have been here before, we hope you enjoy BraveWords Radio.
Please welcome to Streaming for Vengeance, the one and only Bobby Blitz from Overkill. Thank you so much. It's been a wicked ride since we last saw each other. Probably at Summer Breeze, right?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, it's been a couple of years ago, huh?
Yeah.
Jeez. No, it was a Summer Breeze. It was at Summer Breeze Festival. That was, 18, was it?
Yeah, 18 or 19.
Summer 18. Yeah.
Well, we finally got back.
Now.
We finally got back there last summer, our first European trip in 3 years, and it was really surreal, right? Not being able to travel for all that time. Obviously, it was a nightmare.
Well, we all lived through it, or many of us did anyway, in the scene. I mean, obviously we lost some people with regard to that, but good to see you here. And I suppose I just jumped the gun there by saying we all. I mean, there's many that we did lose, but it's good to be back and good to see so many old friends.
Now, how Overkill is a band that's pissed off to begin with, and then to write a record during COVID, it takes it to another level, right?
I suppose so. I mean, we've known each other personally for a long time. That whole pissed off thing is like it's kind of in a positive energy. I mean,
Right.
It might be pissed off, it might be a pushback, and I suppose to have that type of a topic to be surrounding you while writing a record gives you fuel and food for thought. So I can tell you honestly, I mean, I wasn't really happy at the beginning of this fucking thing, and I was writing this depressive record that just didn't quite represent that statement that you made. So I had to tear it down a few times to get back to, let's say, just ground zero and normal, and then start
Right.
pushing back after that.
Now, the way this record starts, Overkill is one of the most unique metal bands on the planet and I'd love to be part of the process to pick that first song, because it's always the first impression, and every Overkill record it's right away, right at you. So Scorched is the first, what a beautiful song. And the dual leads, holy shit, man. I think anybody that's going to hear this record, it's just going to just fill them up with so much positive emotion.
It's what's unique, I think, about this record, and you're right. I mean, when we do a record, we want to come back, we want to kick the door in. I mean, that's kind of, hey, we're back. Shit hasn't changed. We're still in charge of our own world. That kind of an approach to things. But the thing that got me on this record, the song was mock titled Opener. Didi's been doing that for years. Opener. He's thinking in his head, this is the vision he has.
Yeah.
But when I heard that guitar, that dual guitar piece at the beginning, and as it developed into what Dave Lynch did for it, it reminded me of an absolute another era. That era we come from. I mean, I see some of the shit on the wall here, the Venom stuff. Maybe it wasn't a guitar lead, but back then was Judas Priest doing that, starting songs with stuff, or Maiden. And I said, man, it's like listening to the record in the current day, but it's taking your head back to somewhere else that introduced me, for instance, to metal. So I like that whole, duality of era kind of a thing with that record. And then when the song kicks in, it becomes that thrasher with a big, deep, thick hook.
Is there something deep in your heart and soul when you actually find that first song, or is there any debate, flipping and flopping around? It's like, that was the song, that's it.
Rarely there is. I mean, occasionally we're in a position where should it be A or B, or should it be A or D? But usually, I think he has some pretty good vision with regard to where he's going with that opening tune. He's got that kind of a. There's like I'm not going to say it's theatrical, but it's a production element that he has with regard to his riffs. And I think that he and I have been writing together for so long that I just kind of tap into that whole perspective that he has on that song when it's when it's developing. So it usually is that one that's mock titled openers, the one we do end up using.
Nice. Now, you said you had to tear this thing down a couple of times. It's a balancing act between garage days and hysteria. You can either be in there for a short amount of time, or you can be in there for fucking years. So where do you find that balance?
Geez, I don't know. I think, again, the circumstances kind of dictate the outcome, and I think that that's what happened. So it was a combination of both again. One of the things I noticed about the record that I took heart to and attached myself to was that it went in many different ways, and that the task was to connect all the dots in it, to be able to sew those songs together and make it an Overkill record, because the influences are, I'm not going to say countless, but at least 10 or 12 that are showing themselves on this record, whether it be traditional heavy metal, whether it be thrash, whether it be progressive thrash. There's a gothic type center in one of the songs. There's some blues rides. There's some rock and roll shit. There's some groove. It goes in all different kind of space. So for me, it was somewhere. The thing that did it for me was how we were thinking about the production, and that was to take it back to like an older era. That era that I was saying before in that guitar lead, but with a modern punch. So it wasn't this big studio production for me. It was, like, as you said, kind of a balance between those garage days, basement band stuff, and the modern production of what a band that's been around for approximately 40 years would do. We're experienced songwriters at this point. Sorry, but we are.
Well, you were working in part with Colin Richardson, who's got some hell of grindcore roots.
He does, but he makes great records across the board. That's not just his motif. And I think we've always had great experiences with him. You and I have just chatted, casually about shit. We've been producing our own stuff to some degree since Field of Fire. We've been at least involved in it.
Right.
We've been paying attention. To mix it is another thing. To be able to hand it over to somebody who's those objective ears, you need to trust, not just throw blindly at them. Colin is the dude. He was slated for the 21 release of Scorched. That's when it was supposed to happen. So he rode this whole thing with us. As I was tearing the record down and redoing it, he's like, okay, I'm ready when you guys are. I'm ready when you guys are. Let's slate it for this. Let's slate it for that. So, man, I got that demo in 2020. Colin's he's locked up for the mix. I'm tearing the record down all the way to December of 2022 when he's mixing it. I think that he is the X factor on this record. He's the one that gave it that two-era type feel, that 90s scoop guitar with kind of a modern punch to it on the drums that still have a drum room resonance to it. So he was a great pick. I think he's the reason it came out the way it did.
Now, there must not be too much to do by the time it gets to that mixing stage, or sometimes is there, when those ears outside your world really say, oh, we need to change this. I think much of that happen very often?
Well, it's the key right there, because it can be five guys with a different vision right there. We are still a democracy. Dee and I may do the majority of the writing, but Dave Linsk is our heavy meter and adds so many melodies and counter melodies and leads, and says, hey, this needs to be extended, or this can be heavier by doing this. So he's part of that songwriting. And Jason Bittner the same way. You can't stop this dude from writing. He's a songwriter. So I think that sometimes you get different visions of what the outcome is going to be. Good is good, but somebody's thinking something different. So you need that objective ear that you trust to be able to kind of take all those opinions and put it into one presentation. And I think that that's what Colin did. So sometimes there is that kind of push and pull with regard to how we see the final product to be.
Now, not to mention any names, but we all know those bands that are in their own little box, their own little world, and nobody else is let in. You get what you get. So how important is it to get outside that box?
Geez, I don't know. That's a good question. We're in that box, but we understand the necessity of fresh ears to be able to take it to a different level. Because, it's really there's too many bosses, not enough employees, in the room. That's kind of the way it is. And even when I'm doing vocals with with Dave and Dee Dee sitting around in the room, I'm like, I don't want to do vocals with you guys. I don't need somebody to sit here and discuss what I'm doing. I've been doing it for fucking 40 years. I may not look like a professional, but I am. So fuck off. Point being, you still need that objective opinion. You still need somebody to be able to sometimes guide you through the forest because you can't see the way out of because there's too many trees. And I think a lot of times that is the guy who mixes it. And when in the current moment, say when I'm doing vocals, I don't need it discussed. I just need, hey man, just hit the higher note, or just go down low or go back and did what you did before, but not to sit there and discuss it for a half hour while they're eating pizza and drinking beer.
So tell me honestly, when you looked in the mirror and thought, holy shit, this is album number 20, what went through your head?
Well, I think I've done 3 records now with gray hair,
Well, lucky you.
It's a wig, watch.
Yeah.
Would have been great, right? If we're sitting here like the Nugget twins. When I look in the mirror and say it's album 20, I usually don't do that. I mean, I think me personally. Again, we've had a blast every time we've hung out together. It's very cordial and very casual. I'm not wrapped up in celebration when it comes to the monumental event, the anniversary. I'm more wrapped up in the moment. I've strung together approximately 40 years of fucking moments that have gotten me to the 20th record. So why in the hell would I change that at this point and say, oh, this is the one, this is number 20? I mean, I don't really give a rat's ass. Somebody said to me, it's like a rebirth. I'm like, oh, the fucking it's rebirth to senior citizens. I said, you out of your fucking mind? I said, it's just a great Overkill record that we're doing, that we're trying to take advantage of the opportunity and still be relevant in fucking 2023. That's the fucking goal right there.
Both Mark and I have never really minced words, so this is definitely not kissing your butt, but really your voice has not changed at all in 40 years. But I'm sure when you hear it, what has changed in your voice?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and give myself accolades in a fucking parade, but hold on, here comes the band. But I could tell you, it was my revelation, and it was medically suggested to me that I dropped the Marlboros. And then this was, this is over 10 years now. And I could hear it almost immediately when I did. I'm smoking cigarettes, so I'm obviously addicted to it. I still got my fucking pacifier. There's no nicotine in here. I just kind of use it as some kind of a social pacifier, like when I'm on the phone or doing one of these.
Right.
But the time, I guess it was the Electric Age was the last record I smoked on. So by the time I got to White Devil Armory and then the Grinding Wheel, I started noticing differences. And the differences were that the low end became a little rounder and the top end became a little bit more crisp. And these guys are they're writing songs and they're going, hey man, should we drop this from, standard 440 tuning down to, to a drop D so you can hit the notes? I'm like, are you out of your mind? I said, I'm fucking coming back, baby. Leave it where it is. Let's do it like when we did it when we were kids. And that to me is priceless, especially this time in my career, because I've always aspired to be a better singer. My mother was a great singer. I aspired to have that talent, but I had presentation. I didn't necessarily have great singing tools, but I find as time goes on, because of what I've learned, stopping the smoking, I'm actually becoming a little bit better, that I'm raising, the bar for myself from record to record. So I don't think it's exactly the same, but I do think it's a little bit better at this point.
Who have been your vocal coaches over time in your history? Coaching you, whether it be informally or from the radio station?
Gotta tell you, when I first toured, we did it was Field of Fire. We jumped over to Europe. It was Anthrax, Overkill, Agent Steel. All right. That was my first real tour. It was approximately a month. I'm not sure how many dates. We got back and we started working on the Taking Over record. Slayer called. they were doing Raining Blood. We're like, okay, let's go. And we hopped in a camper, an RV, and headed out to Seattle to do the first show. So that was the most singing I had ever done in a year, and I developed polyps on my chords. And what ended up happening was, they started talking about it at the record company. Johnny Z and Marshall were just great people when it came to this shit. They knew everybody. They said, we can help you with this. And they got me in touch with a guy named Don Lawrence in the city. And I took approximately 6 or 8 months with him learning how to sing correctly, learning how to use my diaphragm, and it wore the polyps off my vocal cords. So he was literally the one that laid the groundwork for me to be able to do this for a 40-year period, because I still warm up with the tapes I made in 1987, to this day, I mean, I have it on a computer, so that was the groundwork to it. And a lot of guys went to him. I mean, Snyder went to him. Tony Harnell went to him. Mina Caputo was one of the students. But we're doing this record. I'm doing the song Fever, and I'm trying to be all fucking, mysterious, and I'm whispering and all this shit. And sure enough, I'm out in the fucking kitchen, and I think I was making something Italian or linguine and clams or some shit. I'm having a beer, living by myself. It's a fucking pandemic. The dog had died. The whole fucking thing is going on. I'm like, what the fuck with this song? But I start streaming some Ozzy, right? And I start singing Over the Mountain. And I said, that's it. This is the fucking, every time this fucking guy opens his mouth, he's exactly what he's supposed to be, himself, And so I went back in and, realized that for me, and, cut, Fever in one fucking take, and threw out all the shit that I was trying to do prior, because it was just going back to the beginning and learning a lesson that somebody had succeeded with for so many years. And I was going to use that principle to succeed with this song. So you never know where it comes from. And I can still be inspired at this day, is what I'm trying to prove you.
Now, it's not only about creating music, it's about creating the packaging and the artwork and all the various amount of packaging. If you're a collector these days, man, you got to have about 18 million jobs to pay for all this stuff. When your favorite band is, you got 10 different colors of vinyl and box sets, blah, blah. But working with this artwork and creating that stuff, that's got to be a wonderful challenge.
Well, it's good fun. I mean, especially when they start adding, double gatefolds. And, I mean, we're not usually picking the colors of vinyl. Somebody else suggests it. We'll go, okay, that's cool. All right, we're going to do a green one. We're going to do one that looks like it's fire, a scorched vibe to it between a red and a yellow. We're like, okay, that's cool. For me, I'm always really excited about the fact that they're doing the 180 grams. They're really, really solid pieces. They're never going to warp kind of stuff. But the artwork, is so reminiscent and brings you back to why a guy like me wanted to do this at the beginning, because you were holding this alive, that you could fold out, that gatefold, that you got the lyrics printed on the, on the sleeves that held the actual vinyl inside the cover. So I always think that's fun. And then all of a sudden they add something like a cassette. So they take all that big artwork they put on a record and they shrink it down to this little itty bitty. And you're right. Who in the fuck would want a cassette is what I'm saying. But it's the collector. And I think, I know the reason for such things is to generate new revenues in this day and age. That people do collect, and they obviously target them. It's not us necessarily targeting them. I mean, I like the fact that there's so many different varieties. You got your download, you got your CD, you got your BD, CD, ED, LP, on and on. But the point is that some people go, I got to have it all. And it actually helps to generate revenue and keep fucking old dogs around like us, I mean, it keeps us out of the fucking, keeps us out of the fucking kennel and keeps us working. So it's, I guess it's kind of a good thing. But I do enjoy seeing every different, variety motif of each type of product.
What do you think? Isn't it like beyond surreal that vinyl is now a key revenue stream, or vinyl's made the most incredible comeback in music history? It's nuts.
It's a super purity way to go, right? I mean, that warmer sound, the whole thing. I just read something the other day about Metallica buying like a vinyl pressing plant or something, I mean, it's like, it may not be the wave of the absolute future, but I think it will stay there, for a longer period of time than we think, because it's actually it's a foothold again, And this is not in the age of excess for the music companies. The age of excess was that shit back, pre-80s or pre-90s, maybe 85. I kind of came in at the end of that. We got that shitty fucking vinyl that was like, it was, you left it in the sun, it was better as a frisbee than even playing it, after that point.
Bonsai.
And I think that people like quality product, especially when it's something as historical as this. It's historical, but yet in the current day.
Do you remember the first LP or 45 that you bought?
Oh, for God's sake. This is like, I just remember this collection of 3 or 4 of them. There was the Beatles, Help. There was my father bought Johnny Cash Live at Folsom Prison, and it became mine. And then the Columbia Record House came in when I was about 13 or so. I was a newspaper boy, and he let me join. My pop let me join it. I picked everything heavy, so I had like Alice Cooper Killers, which wasn't a great thing around my Catholic mother to be fucking playing Dead Babies in the house.
So tell me honestly, did Johnny Cash influence this?
He didn't. I admire that picture. That has got to be one of the most iconic pictures of all time.
Can you tell me what is the connection between you and Dee Dee? Like, why does it work?
Well, first of all, he doesn't speak any fucking English, so he does whatever I tell him. I just like saying that. Every time he sends me a demo, and I've said this in interviews in the past, I wait about a week. He never picks up the phone right away. He's one of those I'll call you back kind of guys. So I leave a message, go, listen, I got the demo. I'm getting really tired of this shit. I'm a fucking professional. I don't know how you expect me to write to this crap. And then I hang up the phone. But I've been doing it for fucking 20 records.
Right.
So it's just like, yeah. But I think that there's a basic understanding and a few principles we have. And we have disagreed, but I don't think we've ever raised our voices to each other. So we've never had the drama. It's never went to the drama end of things. We do all of our disagreeing behind closed doors, not in front of people. We always present ourselves in one voice, regardless of it. And I think that the good thing about Dee Dee and I is that he's a lot more long-sighted. He's the guy who can, in his head, say, this is the opening track before that track is finished, where I'm more immediate. And if you get immediacy and long-sightedness, you really are getting the best of both worlds when you talk about whether it be writing, whether it be friendship, a partnership, business. We manage the band. So I'm looking at the moment. He's looking down the road. You need both. So that said, we're also have the same upbringing. I mentioned my mother not wanting to hear Dead Babies. Dee Dee's mother wouldn't want to hear the same thing either. We have big families. We've always put them first before the band. And if you do such a thing, if the families are before the band takes care of itself. There's not a bunch of that fucking drama shit. Like, how the fuck could you? What do you mean your kids graduating high school? Kids graduating high school? It's a big fucking deal. We're not going to do the show.
Yeah. Nice.
So I think that those are the reasons that, one voice, same kind of an upbringing, and, disagree, but do it respectfully.
Now, if I had to name 2 of the most consistent bands in heavy metal, I'd be talking to one of them now, and the other would be Flotsam and Jetsam.
Okay.
Now, what band has never let you down?
Wow, that's something. It's never let me down.
I'd probably add Slayer as my third because they're my favorite band, but it's Overkill has been consistent since day one. True.
Yeah, man. I can't. I get it with the Slayer consistency. I'm trying to go into my head and think of one great record, and then this way I could say they never let me down because they only did one fucking great record, and they only did one. I guess I could move toward the Slayer end of things because there's still that ominous feel about the whole thing, as if part of me thinks that regardless of their success, that they are, you know, quintessentially the underground band. You know, that they can create that ominous feeling. You can walk into a venue that's when Slayer's going to play, and everything changes when you get inside that venue, or when you spin one of their discs. You know, but I'm trying to think of something you just didn't say, so that I could be just a little bit off on, you know, on the left side here. But I'm going to have to go with Slayer. I mean, I'm just going to have to go with Slayer. I mean, it's definitely not Metallica. Geez, and I'm only thinking thrash. You know who came pretty close for me? Pretty close is Judas Priest. Judas Priest came pretty close for me to not let me down. There's a couple of bumps in the road there in the middle of the disco era where it got a little bit dicey for me. But even the last releases, to me, stand up with the early releases that, you know, that attracted me and attracted many of us to their brand of metal.
And you can add Zeppelin there, because I don't think there's any band in history that recorded 7 or 8 records of perfection from start to finish.
Yeah, I don't know if I would agree with that. I mean, I think that I think that they did some really wonderful work, and you know, and I think Page was a great guitar player, but man, he's sloppy as shit when you put him next to somebody you're playing. And somebody will go, you can't say that. Yes, I can. I mean, he's a sloppy guitar player, and it was his style, and it kind of made that shit happen. But some of the stuff in the middle there too, I didn't particularly care for. Coda, etc.
Now, speaking of Flotsam and your drummer Jason Bittner, he must wake up pinching himself that he gets to actually play drums to this music. Seriously, right? What an asset.
He's cut for it, man. I mean, he's another X factor in this band. You know, Jason Bittner, he's on a clock. You know, I mean, the shit that happens in his head and how it transfers to his hands, those drum skins it is the same on a daily basis, and it always is at the highest level. It's never even a little bit behind. So his consistency to me is just amazing, and his creativity. You know, he was cut for this shit, man. We knew this all the way back when he was hanging around Overkill shows at 4:00 in the afternoon when the crew was loading in upstate New York. Oh, there's that kid with the drumsticks. You know, it's a fucking pain in the ass. Jeez, I think he's waiting for Tim Mallory to drop dead so he can go and he can sit in. And so eventually he did sit in Los Angeles. We let him sit in. During a convention, he showed up with a pair of drumsticks when we were playing the whiskey. He's like, "Hey, can I sit in?" I'm like, "I guess so." I mean,
so there is a theme here with Venom and Metallica, and right. of course this, because it's Johnny Z's birthday. He would have been 71 today.
Oh, for God's sake! How great is that? Geez, did you remember, or did you have it like a reminder?
No, I actually remembered. We do like a Today in Metal History every day of the year, and it came up. We were actually at that Metallica Raven show in Orlando in October. So the death of both Marcia and Johnny, like that really must have hit pretty deep.
It's such a weird thing because, it was 2 weeks before Johnny passed, and his daughter Ricky called me because we were on the road and we were going down to Florida, and or maybe it was a month before. We were going down to Florida, and they wanted to have a birthday party. So now it's all coming to me. It was March. It was March of I guess that was March 2020, right?
Yeah.
So it was we were going to have a party. He was going to bring 15, 20 people. He was all excited about his birthday, the whole thing, and then very soon thereafter he passed away, and I saw Ricky showed up with her cousin Randy to the gig in Orlando, and we talked about it and stuff. But sure, I mean it was the start for us. I always say, people always say that Metallica changed this, and they for sure did. They changed it. That Bay Area sound, they changed it. But you know where they had to go to get their fucking record released? 3,000 miles east to the state of New Jersey, to John Zazula, who recognized the brilliance in that record and that it was a game changer. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is the Bay Area sound. That's all well and good. but nobody picked up on it there. They picked up on it
Yeah.
in this area. So that to me is the genius, and that's where the genius starts. But coupled with that genius was a very kind of a family attitude. It was a husband and wife situation who had this flock of bands. You know what I'm saying? A whole bunch of like fucking snot-nosed fucking kids who wanted to change the world too. You know, and they, in many cases, you know, not just launched careers, but were responsible for the longevity of them because of how they launched, you know, and how they promoted them and how much they loved them. I'm gonna call Ricky Zazula after we talk.
Yeah, nice. Please tell her I said hello.
I most certainly will.
Not to keep it on a morbid path, but nobody is immortal. The music might be, but we're seeing a lot of our heroes dying in the last couple of years, right? Whether it be Jeff Beck or Eddie Van Halen, or you know what I mean? How is that hitting you as you age and watch?
Well, you know, it hits me way more when it's a younger dude. You know what I'm saying? Like a Nick Menza or something. You know, when it's like you know, somebody of a younger age where you just don't feel it should happen. I'm a realist, man. You've known me for a long time. You know, I know that I got way more time behind me than I have in front of me. But the way I've gotten to this point is enjoying a lot of those steps, or understanding that there's two sides to every problem, and just because I'm on this side of the problem doesn't mean I won't get through it to the other side of the problem and can continue to enjoy the journey I'm on, you know? So I don't really think about that shit so much. I mean, I feel the loss, but it's not like I don't feel it as it's creeping up behind me and tapping me on the shoulder. I feel that, oh, music has lost an icon, you know, in those types of terms. You know, music has lost Neil. You know, not Bobby has lost Neil. Oh, this is the worst day of my life. I kind of think of it more so in music, but I don't ever think of it in terms of me. I mean, it would only waste time. You know what I mean? It would only waste the time, whatever time is left. It would only waste parts of it if my head kept going to that spot, or would go there even occasionally. You know, so I'm not. You know, it's not like anything but natural. I wish it wasn't, but it is. You know, that's. As people get older, you know, and the scene becomes, you know, forever changed by loss.
How would you like to be remembered of like what you left on this planet? What you left behind?
Maybe what I just said to you, that I kind of enjoyed the journey. You know, somebody asked me once, you know, what's in the future for Overkill? You know, I said more of the same shit. I hope, you know, this was the fun part of this. You know, whether it be, you know, the chaotic 80s or you know, the end of the 90s, which is a little dark for metal, but still I think it was one of my most proudest periods of time in this. I mean, we took over the management. We found gigs where they were impossible to find. We didn't go home and work for mom and dad. You know, we stayed out in the fucking road and we made it fucking happen. You know, we understood the opportunity that, you know, on Monday there was 100 thrash metal bands in a room, and by Friday there was 10. You know, we said that means there's more room for us. You know, that's how we looked at the 90s. And I think of that as a really proud moment for us. I'm not going to say the rebirth of it, but for sure, a healthy scene in 2010 when Ironbound came out was an absolute fucking reflection of the health of this scene. And then what do we see after that? The cruises start happening. I'm running into Tim on 70,000 tons of metal, you know, watching a band or having a beer, talking about dogs on the upper deck. You know, This is some pretty good shit. To say, what am I remembered for? That I enjoyed the fucking journey. I think that's really the basis of this whole thing. Not that I changed the world, that the world gave me the opportunity to enjoy it. You know, live my life in Levi's and motorcycle boots. That's the fucking what I always wanted to do.
I love that. Fuck, dude, I love that. Yeah. Since you have your hands on the managerial part of things these days, what do you think of like this changing business model in the music business in the last few years, and all the social media and all these other things you got to pay attention to now?
Well, you know, I mean, I'm a personal person outside of interviews, and you know, outside the interviews, outside of the professional end of it. I mean, I like the people that I meet in it, whether they be the ones who buy the tickets or the ones I'm working with. I like most of them, so I have a great time with them. But to this day, I don't have Facebook or Twitter or any of that stuff. I mean, I'd rather keep that out of my personal life. I do understand the necessity to have it as business, you know, in our business model, because it promotes us. It's an absolute necessary evil. And it's not even evil because everybody goes there. So it's set up perfectly for your promotion. I do think it also overcrowds everything. I think the changing model of business in general has given that young band with the great ideas such a crowded room to be able to fight through because everybody's working with the same tools. Sure, it's even, but where's your talent going to come from? Where's it going to shine? Is it going to be lost, in that mass of information that's out there? Whereas in the John and Marsha Zazula days, it was about promotion and hitting it at the right spot and moving it out there. Did we get signed if it wasn't for them? I don't know. I mean, do we get signed if it was 2015? I have no fucking idea. Yeah. I think it would have been a much harder task to do. So I think you have to reinvent and you have to stay current. But on a personal level, I shun it as much as possible. I just don't need that shit in my fucking life.
I hear you. Most of us shouldn't have that shit in our life. Now, when I listen, a couple more quickies for you. Whenever I listen to an Overkill record, it sounds like you know what the heaviest riff of all time is, but you want to better it. So what do you think the heaviest riff of all time is?
Oh, my God. I mean, this could be a Zeppelin riff. It could be Heartbreaker. That is one heavy fucking riff. Geez, I hate when somebody says all time because my head's now spinning like.
Or it could be Postmortem.
Could be Postmortem. It could be something in Sabbath too. I was going to say Supernaut, but that's not a heavy riff. That kind of jumps around a little bit. I'm going to stay with Heartbreaker.
Now, we know you deliver it live. Can you name a couple of bands that you've seen in your history where you just sat there as an audience and you went, holy fuck, we need to be better than they are? Or try to.
I try not to compare, but there are some live bands in... It depends how they present themselves. I think, for instance, Slayer is a great live band. I think Creator's a great live band. But I think it's a whole different perspective of live. Obituary is a great live band. It's a different perspective than what we do. And I think that's kind of cool that there was a kid from Gamma Bomb, right? Philip Byrne. We stayed in touch with each other over the years. Did a tour with us, and he loved how we presented things. And he would always ask me, he was just a young kid, just kind of learning the ropes and the whole thing. And he came up to me after one of the shows, and I'm sweating my ass off, my shirt off. I'm drinking a cold Heineken, and he goes, how do you do that every fucking night? How do you fucking figure this shit out? I said, bro, I only steal the good shit.
Nice.
The crappy stuff I leave behind. I steal it and make it my own. It's just that fucking simple. He goes, smart and honest.
Yes. Oh, dude, this is such a joy. Give me the future forecast. What's 2023 going to bring after this record comes out?
Well, I'm not sure about Canada right now, but for sure we're doing some U.S. dates. We're going to poke around in the end of June and July. It's going to be a summer tour, man. That means a barbecue kind of thing. Everybody pools their eating money, and there's ribeye steaks and fucking baked potatoes on the grill. And no pressure. I mean, I love it. You're standing out there with sunglasses, your shirt's off, and people recognize your tattoos. You're waving, and you hear somebody go, "Are you the band?" Just sort of grilling outside. So a U.S. tour. There'll be some Euro festivals. I think we're going to be at Alcatraz in Belgium, which is a great fest, kind of a mid-level kind of a thing. Really fucking grassroots metal thing.
Right.
Europe. In April, I'm talking backwards now, just so right on the release we're over in Europe. And then I'm sure that by September, October, we're going to start doing a second round of U.S., Euro, South America's talking to us. Somebody from Japan just got us involved with what's called thrash domination. So we're going to be at least on 4 or 5 continents with regard to this record. So I'm looking forward to being back on the road and back doing my thing.
Nice. Dude, what a pleasure. Thank you so much, and what a record. I can't wait to see you live and shake your hand and share a